Good evening. Welcome to the January 27th meeting of the Clovis City Planning Commission. Members of the public are encouraged to participate in the meetings by accessing the webcast on the city's website, or providing written comment at the same website, or participating by phone, or coming to the Planning Commission meeting in person. I'll now call the meeting to order and ask Commissioner Antuna to lead us in the flag salute. Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Okay, so we'll do roll call. Commissioner Antuna?
Here.
Commissioner Bedstead?
Here.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Cunningham?
Here.
And Chair Hinkle is absent.
Let's see here. Since we've lost our computer, I'm winging it here with a script, so bear with me. Webex Participation. Reasonable efforts will be made to allow written and verbal comment from a participant communicating with the host of the virtual meeting. To do so, a participant will need to chat with the host and request to make a written or verbal comment. The host will make reasonable efforts to make written and verbal communications available to the Planning Commission. Due to the new untested format of these meetings, the city cannot guarantee that these written and verbal comments initiated via chat will occur. Participants desiring to make a verbal comment via chat will need to ensure that they're accessed the meeting with audio transmission capabilities. Verbal comments made by the telephone or WebEx. If you wish to speak to the Commission on an item by telephone, you must contact the city not later than 4 p.m. the day of the meeting. Ask to provide your name, phone number, and your email, and you will be emailed instructions to log into WebEx to participate in the meeting. The staff recommends participants log into the WebEx at 5:30 p.m. the day of the meeting to perform an audio check. All callers will be placed on mute, and at the appropriate time for your comment, your microphone will be unmuted. You will be able to speak to the Planning Commission for up to 5 minutes. Let's see here. Now we'll roll down to approval of minutes. Do I have a motion to approve the Planning Commission meeting minutes for the meeting of December 16, 2021?
Motion to approve minutes for the December 16, 2021 Planning Commission meeting.
Second.
Sorry.
Have a motion and a second.
Okay.
Roll call.
So we have a motion to approve the minutes from the December 16th, 2021 Planning Commission meeting made by Commissioner Antuna, seconded by Commissioner Hatcher. Commissioner Antuna?
Yes.
Commissioner Bedstead?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Cunningham?
Yes. Okay, we have comments from the Commission Secretary.
Yes, I do have a couple of items. One is, as of now, we don't have any items scheduled for the February Planning Commission hearing, so probably by the end of next week, we'll know for sure if we're going to cancel that meeting or not due to lack of items. The other thing is, just wanted to point out, I think Dave had sent you all an email earlier this week related to Planning Commissioners Academy, so just a reminder to respond to that to see if you're able to go to that academy or not, so that we can make appropriate accommodations for that.
Okay. At this point in time, I believe there's one possible. I don't know about Chair Hinkle, but I know I'm a no, and I believe the other commissioners are.
I'm similarly a no.
Commissioner Bedstead is a no. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so we have a potential of one or possibly two with Chair Hinkle, who's absent at the time. As I understand from the emails our joint meeting with the City Council has been postponed to a date uncertain.
Yeah, that's correct. We've been thinking about trying to target March. It looks like that's a possibility, but we may have some other housing-related items that need to go in March, so we're a little bit timid about giving you another date because I think we're on our second or third date that we thought was good, and we had to bump. So stay tuned. As soon as we know, can give you a pretty good indication, or at least a target. We'll query you again on your availability.
Okay, good. Any further Secretary comments?
None.
Okay, thank you. Planning Commission member comments. Seeing none, we'll move to any public comments. This is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Planning Commission on any matter within the Planning Commission's jurisdiction that is not listed on the agenda. In order for everyone to be heard, please limit your comments to 5 minutes or less, or 10 minutes per topic. Anyone wishing to be placed on the agenda for a specific topic should contact the Planning Division and submit correspondence at least 10 days before the desired date of appearance. Is there anyone in the chambers wishing to make a comment? Seeing none, anyone on the web?
There are none.
Thank you. We'll move to public hearings. Item 1, consider items concerning conditional use permit 2020-004, allowing the expansion of an existing athletic training facility to include outdoor training, activities, and events for a portion of an approximately 0.6-acre property located at 340 Clovis Avenue. Athletic performance applicant, David Standifer, representative. Number 1, review compliance with the conditions of approval for conditional use permit 2020-004. And 2, consider approval of a resolution amending the conditions of approval for conditional use permit 2020-004. The staff is our city planner, Dave Merchant.
Thank you, Chairman Pro Tem. As you noted, this evening we're going to look at the second review of CUP 2020-004. As you noted, there are 2 related items. The first is doing a compliance review for the conditional use permit. And secondarily, there's a consideration of a resolution that would make findings on the review and amend the conditions of approval as they were previously adopted. So a little bit of a refresher here. This conditional use permit was approved back in September of 2020. It was approved to allow outdoor training. Special events were allowed subject to a separate administrative use permit. There were 40 conditions of approval, and an annual review or a 1-year review was required by the Commission, and that took place back at the October Planning Commission meeting last year. During that last review, 15 conditions were found to be out of compliance. Mainly those were in 3 different categories. Special event requirements had not been met, sidewalk frontage, trash enclosure improvements had not been completed, and there were some concerns about neighborhood impacts and fencing. The Commission at that time set this evening as the follow-up hearing time, and that's why we're here. The applicant has accomplished a variety of things in preparation for coming back this evening. Primarily, it's important to note that he's engaged in the process now of purchasing the property. He can speak to that in terms of what the progress is and the outlook. That would create a lot of flexibility in terms of making long-term investments in the property, which at present he doesn't own. He did drop all of the special events from the operations plan. He had, as you might recall, just submitted an AUP application prior to the October meeting. That was pulled, and the application fees were refunded. All of the live soccer activities, so live gameplay, for instance, have been pulled from the operation, including the 5-on-5 games, which I think were primarily the source for some of the issues that we were seeing. In general, training activities have been redirected away from the north property line, and for instance, where a soccer training does occur, those training activities are pointed back towards the south or towards the existing athletic performance building. We've eliminated facility rentals to third parties. The non-conforming mural sign was painted over. Hardware and signage and related improvements have been installed for the fire department's requirements. And then a contractor was hired to install the physical improvements, sidewalks and trash enclosures and so forth, that are the subject of a number of conditions of approval. So where do we sit today? First, it's important to note that the compliance status that we're going to describe to you is based on removing all of the conditions of approval addressing special events. Those are moot at this point. We just would propose, as we'll talk here in a little bit, to specifically remove the opportunity for special events through the CUP. With that in mind, there are 8 conditions that are out of compliance. All of those are related to the requirements for construction of physical improvements. Mainly that's the sidewalks, trash enclosure. I think there's a backflow prevention device as well. And then there's kind of an outlier, the landscape maintenance district annexation requirement. The status of the sidewalks and the other physical improvements is a little bit unique in this instance. As I mentioned, the applicant did hire a contractor to do the work. The contractor met with city staff, and as we went through that explanation and working out what needed to be done, the scope of the required improvements expanded from what we initially thought it would be. That expansion triggered the need for engineered plans to be prepared. So what we had initially thought was that the contractor could do the work and basically design in the field, verified through inspections. That is no longer the case. It's quite a bit more work overall to get done at this point. In response to that, the applicant has proposed to include funding for the completion of these improvements in the financing package for purchasing the property. So effectively, they would in round numbers, I think it's been described as $90,000 or $100,000 of improvements that would be funded through the financing package and completed in conjunction with the purchase of the property. So your options this evening, I've tried to outline those on the screen. They're also in your staff report, so this is not new from the information in the staff report. You can find that the project is in substantial compliance with the conditions of approval. You can find that changes to the conditions of approval are appropriate, and you can then incorporate new and revised conditions. That's the alternative that we're recommending. You could find that the project is out of compliance with the existing conditions of approval and move to revoke the conditional use permit. And then there's a general alternative that you could make other findings and provide other direction as you may deem appropriate. So based on what we found and the progress that the applicant has made, we've outlined a series of recommended actions, and those are what is included in your staff report as the bundled recommendation and the revised conditions of approval. We would recommend that you find that the project is out of compliance with at least 8 conditions of approval. Those are outlined in attachment 3 to your report. Amend the conditions of approval to remove the allowance for special events, include removing any allowance for alcohol sales and food trucks. There's also a new condition that specifically says, I think it is included, don't have it in front of me, but I'll pull it if we need to, that special events are not permitted on the site. We'd also recommend that conditions be incorporated to reflect the changes that have been made to the operational practices at the site. So, for instance, no live soccer, directing activities away from the north property line, and so forth. We would recommend that the May 2nd, 2022 date be set as a deadline for completion of the outstanding improvements. And we would also recommend that a follow-up hearing be set for the May 26th Planning Commission meeting. So that is our recommendation that you adopt a resolution making the compliance findings and amending the CUP as outlined with the details on the previous slide. And again, that's that's those items, and we'd be happy to answer any questions the commissioners might have.
Thank you, Dave. Any questions from the commission?
Yeah. So do we expect that by May 2nd, they will have had time to get the funding and make all of those changes?
The applicant will have to speak to the timing. May 2nd gives another 3 months, basically, for the work to be done. That was about as far out as staff was prepared to recommend at this point. My guess is if the engineered plans aren't started pretty quick, then we won't meet that timeline. So we're going to have to, the applicant's going to have to start moving forward to get the engineered plans done and submitted for review, so that the work can actually start when the funding is in place. I think we'll have to get some feedback from the applicant on whether that presents a hardship or not. From staff's perspective, that provides a total of 6 months from the first review for the work to be done. And so that's our recommendation, regardless of how easy or difficult it is for the applicant to meet. But obviously, that's within your discretion. If you want to make that date sooner or later, you can do that.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions for? Okay, I'll open it to the public with a start on the applicant. Do you have the applicant present?
Good evening. Yes, we have started the process of trying to buy the property. All financials have been submitted. We're just waiting on final approval. We did come to terms for price on the property, and we're hoping that that should be done hopefully within the next couple of weeks. Unfortunately, the owner of our property moves at a very slow pace, but we have been working on it for about 2 months now, and we have been able to come to terms on pricing. As far as that goes, yes, we agree that the sidewalk needs to be done. Unfortunately, the part that is every time we came coming back, the price kept going up with all the changes over it. So now we're up to $93,000 for concrete and trash enclosure. I understand that the sidewalk needs to be done, and I have no problem with that. The thing that I would ask is, we already have an existing trash enclosure, is if we could take that off the list and put doors on it to save $23,000 and put that money towards the sidewalk. That's the one thing that I am hoping that I can ask and be able to receive, because it's a hardship to go. We were thinking we were going to be somewhere around $40,000, and as it just kept adding up, now we're at the $93,500. So that is the one thing I would like to ask, is if we could use the existing trash enclosure, put the metal doors on it up to code, and still be able to do the existing concrete.
Any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Mr. Standifer, a couple questions. You know, we go back to the original CUP in September of 20.
Yeah.
Obviously, all these conditions are there. We had the 1-year review. Many of these are out of compliance. Have you talked to the property owner along the way? I mean, at some point, we're faced with either non-conformance or this property is just not going to be compatible, right? And we're listening to you, and I understand, you know, the expense that's associated, but at some point, either you as the occupant of the property have to provide the monies to make this a compatible property, or the landowner has to do so. And we've heard now that you're in the process of buying this building for quite some time. Sounds like you're getting closer and closer, but I think to us, you know, we want to make sure, are we just kicking the can here? And that being said, you know, you said the owner works slow, but has the owner offered to pony up for some of these? Or, I mean, what else can we do here?
So with the property, yes, it has taken a lot longer than we were hoping to. Through the process, he kept raising the price on the property, and it kept slowing things down. The other big one, to be honest, is the amount of revenue that we lost during COVID. You know, we lost well over $100,000. And then once we were able to get back to a stable position, then that's when we were able to come to terms. We have discussed it with him about the sidewalk, and I can't fault him for it, is because we're the ones who turf the outdoor area, that falls on us. So for the sidewalk, that is our responsibility for that one. But we, as my attorney's been running point with the owner, and we have agreed to terms. We submitted 5 years of financials, what was it, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, and everything should be moving forward on that one.
Okay, yeah, I'm just kind of trying to process this of, you know, I'm sure you have as well, you know, what's a way forward here to satisfy these?
And that's the thing is, I want to be in Old Town, and that's, you know, we've been here 11 years. We get to help a lot of people in this community, so we are trying our best to get forward, and we want to own this property so that we can actually make it into something nice. So, yeah, to answer your question, we are moving as fast as we can with this property to buy.
Thank you.
Any other?
Have you talked to city staff at all about your desire to try to change the trash enclosure, or is that something that they are just hearing for tonight?
That's once we started getting all the final pricing, and when it started getting up over the 40, 50, and now up to 90,000, it's the trash enclosure's there, and it's never had doors since we've been there in 11 years. So that's what we're trying to do, is we would rather put our capital into, you know, the sidewalk to make it safe for the public and everybody, and just spend, you know, $2,000 to $3,000 to make the gates on the front of our existing trash enclosure, so it's done properly and those type of things.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments?
Also, I completely appreciate all the efforts that you put forward towards coming into compliance with your CUP. And I understand you still have 8 remaining, 7 of which are physical improvements. I'm kind of with Commissioner Bedstead in the sense that if we go back to the original CUP, and if we include the days that the planning staff is recommending, we're in about 1.5 years to allow you to come into compliance. And same question as Commissioner Bedstead had is this something that is going to be possible to come into compliance? The initial time you had considered purchasing the property or to make these improvements, and then when we saw you in October, that was also something that you were looking to do. And I guess my concern is on May 2nd, will we have basically, will you be in similar position because the owner is dragging his feet or you're not able to purchase the property? And as Dave mentioned, we're getting pretty close to being able to having to pull permits or start the process for that to be able to meet that deadline. So my concern is that if we today make a decision that we're going to take staff's recommendations and the appropriate actions, that will come May 2nd, we're going to be here in this position again. And I understand, I want Old Town to have a diversity of businesses, and yours has brought a lot to Old Town, so I would want to see you remain. I'm just concerned as to what we'll see in May, I guess.
To be honest, I don't want to be in another meeting about this stuff. You know, I want to have this thing move forward because I don't want to, you know, I don't mean this in a bad way. I don't want it held over my head worrying about, is my business going to be affected by not getting these things done? That's my biggest thing, is we are trying to do something good for everybody in this community, And that's why we have been pushing hard for this. We have submitted everything that we can to get this deal done, and now it's just ultimately, we're waiting on the owner to sign off and everything. Once we sign, then we can move forward with the property. And that's my biggest thing is, we've been here 11 years, and he's never wanted to do anything to make the property better, whereas we want to buy it and turn it into something, a destination for our people. So we are pushing as hard as we can. And like I said, I don't want to be coming in front of this meeting, you know, explaining myself again, because I want to make sure that you guys are happy with what we're trying to do for the community and happy with how our building looks at the same time.
Let me ask just one follow-up. So I guess I'll just say this. I agree with what you're doing for the community. I like the project. You know, I think there was some question amongst some members up here when you originally came forth with it. I was supportive then. I'm still supportive now. But understandably, we have these conditions. They're there for reasons. And,
yeah.
and I don't hear you, other than the trash can, you know, ask, or, you know, the enclosure, you're agreeing that you need to take action on these. You know, I imagine the owner understands what kind of pressure you're under, and I can relate, you know, in the sense that you don't want the rug to be pulled out from under you either. How do we set you up to succeed, right? I think we're all asking, okay, well, if we were to continue this to May 2nd, you know, we're expecting an outcome, and we don't want to go May 2nd to August, and August to the following year, and so on and so forth, where we are, as I said, just kind of kicking the can. So, you know, I heard from the city planner, you need to move quickly if you're going to get this done, get these engineering plans in place. You've got some stars that have to align, right? I mean, so that the owner's got to, you know, sounds like you guys have come to terms. Have you put together a timeline? And, you know, if by this date this happens, you've got some kind of commitment more than a straw man that your contractor can do this work as long as the city's approved the engineering plans. I guess what I would like to understand as we, you know, kind of eventually consider this and call it to a vote is May 2nd or achievable, you know, or are you going to need an extra 30 days? Because I hear you. I think you don't want to be back here just as much as we would like to see you come into compliance and go and be successful. So just trying to help you process this and help us process, what does that timeline look like? And, you know, we heard from the city staff tell us, hey, we think you've had 6 months, but is it 7? Or is this May 2nd timeline achievable? What are your thoughts?
To be honest, I've never done the permit process. From what our concrete guys told us, it's a 8 to 10 week process. That's what he's saying. He said once I have the contract with me, he said once I sign that, he would start submitting paperwork to get the plans drawn and move towards a process of getting the permits. But that's what he was telling me, 8 to 10 weeks.
Okay. Sean, looks like you want to weigh in here.
Yeah, if you let me. So the request that he's making to consider leaving the trash enclosure and modifying it to put doors on it, that's a very reasonable request. It is the first time I've heard it tonight, but I want to make you aware that it is already in the conditions of approval that there's the option to either construct a new one or to modify the existing one. So it's definitely something that we can go back and explore, and if by all means, if we can still provide service and save them money, that's a great option. And then as far as the permitting process, that 8 to 10 weeks is probably on the long side, but we've been working a lot already with the contractor. I think it'll be much shorter. I think 8 to 10 weeks might be the total time of looking at the plans, getting them approved, and getting out to work. And long story short, I think we can condense that quite a bit for you.
Any others? From my perspective, we all here are geared toward the success of businesses that come before us. We want to do what's right for them, but what's right for the city as well. In your particular case, I think you heard me back in December when I said that I'm up very close to recommending that the CUP be done away with. I want to see you go forward and I want you to be successful. I'm not convinced that the current owner is aware of the city's needs. Does he want to sell the property, or is he just dangling it as a carrot in front of you?
No, he wants to sell it. We've had, well, he can talk to it if you want him to. We've had long negotiations, and he wants to basically get the property off of his books, per se. And so that's been the discussions over the months. But yes, he does want to get rid of the property. And
well, perhaps it would be timely for you to contact him and say that you've got a commission that's breathing down your neck, if you want to say it that way. That, you know, we don't want to keep getting dates pushed out on us. I'm in full agreement with what Commissioner Bedstead and Commissioner Antuna have said. If we extend it to May, that's kind of a wall. We need to get this done. May, we're pushing up on 2 years from the time this all started, so we need to get it done.
And that's my thing is, I'm tired of paying rent on a building that I've been there 11 years.
I got you.
And now that's why we are pushing so hard, is because now it makes more sense financially to get the building bought, move forward, because right now we're lucky enough, we're getting to work with a lot of professional athletes. And we have guys flying from the East Coast that are spending 8 weeks with us right now. So we want to be able to have a facility that we can build upon, make it nice so that we can continue to bring those high-level guys in. So it's an utmost priority for us to get it done, because then we can move on going after agents and everything else to bring them into this area.
Any other questions for the applicant? Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else in the chambers wishing to comment on this item? Is there anyone online?
There are none.
Bring it back to the commission for discussion and a motion.
I believe that the May 2nd date is a very reasonable date, having heard from the applicant that they expect to have, for it to be, the approval process for the plans would be 8 to 10 weeks, and then having heard from staff that it could actually be expedited quicker. I believe that the May 2nd deadline is appropriate, and I'm happy to know that we can possibly accommodate the trash enclosure. So I would definitely vote for that. Should staff be able to work with the applicant and have it be up to code, then that they would be able to just to modify their existing trash enclosure, I think I would be okay with that as well.
Just to clarify on the modification, so we wouldn't have to make any modification to the CUP. As I heard you say, there's already language that refers to that. The city would really just need to kind of review the materials and make sure that it provides the outcome we're looking for?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. So, I think, like Commissioner Antuna, you know, I would like to see this business succeed. I, you know, certainly don't want to sit here. You know, my interest is not in trying to revoke this CUP. At the same time, I think, like you said, Commissioner Cunningham, we have, the conditions were clear from the onset. We're being asked to uphold them and be fair. So, you know, I was kind of leaning to, you know, how do we equip the applicant to be successful? Maybe I'm in the camp of giving a little more liberty, even if that was another month. you know, I just would like to see this come to a close. And so, you know, if we feel that, you know, it's reasonable based on the inputs by May 2nd, you know, I'm in that camp. However, if for some reason everything was not complete, you know, maybe the sidewalk's 80% or it's, you know, we can see it's underway, what happens to the May 26th hearing date? So if we're not fully compliant by May 2nd, does the May 26th hearing, I mean, it would still be a go?
The intent of the condition and the recommendation is that we come back to you in any instance on May 26th and report on compliance. If on May 2nd the work was, you know, not done, but by May 26th the work had been finished, you know, that would be up to you to decide whether that was satisfactory conformance or not.
And I guess what I'm alluding to is, if it were May 26th and I was sitting here and you were telling me it's all done and it was finished yesterday, I'm gonna go. I'm not gonna go back to, hey, it wasn't done on May 2nd. You know, I think to me, May 26th is the cliff. That's my perspective. That's the public hearing. That's when we would make our finding. Obviously, I think maybe this was like a kind of under promise, over deliver. So hopefully they can get it done by May 2nd, and that way there is no question. But just trying to understand and get just similar dialogue going with my colleagues here on the commission. So, that's all.
I would agree with what Commissioner Bedstead says, with the caveat that May 2nd should still be the cutoff, and the applicant can be in contact with city planning and said, you know, we've got 80%, we expect to have it done before the 26th, or we've run into additional problems, at which time you can decide whether or not we go on May 26th, or if we come before us for a revocation. I think I'd leave that to the city. May 2nd, I think, is the cutoff, and we have the 26th is our hearing date. And I want to see either date. You come forward and say everything is cool, we're done, we can move on to the next. But that's kind of my thoughts on the matter. Any other comments? Anyone have a motion?
I'll make the motion. Well, we actually have two motions here, right? So, first motion to review the compliance with the conditions of approval for CUP 2020 Tax 004. I'll make a motion to find that the CUP is not compliant with the 8 as listed, to be addressed and reconvened here May 26th with a target completion date by May 2nd.
I'll second.
Motion and a second.
Okay, so we have a motion by Commissioner Bedstead, seconded by Commissioner Hatcher. Commissioner Bedstead?
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Antuna?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Cunningham?
Yes.
All right, I'll try for the second motion here. So, consider approval of the resolution amending the conditions of approval for the CUP, specifically those that city staff has indicated are no longer applicable based on the applicant's withdrawal or communication to suggest they're no longer going to be pursued.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Bedstead, seconded by Commissioner Hatcher. Commissioner Antuna? Or Bedstead, sorry.
Yes.
Commissioner Hatcher?
Yes.
Commissioner Antuna?
Yes.
Chair Pro Tem Cunningham?
And I'm a yes as well. Any final issues? to discuss, then we'll call the meeting adjourned at 6:40.